This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by AdamNeve.com. If you go to AdamNeve.com and type in the promo code SPORT, you'll get 50% off just about any item in the store. Once again, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and for today's show, we're going to go over the NBA games for Tuesday night, go recap the Week 9 games from the NFL. I mean, because we didn't get a chance to do that Tuesday since we missed the show, but yeah, we'll do that for the Week 9 games, and then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about the Thunder and Celtics, and then to wrap the show up, we're going to talk some NFL and pretty much just anything else that's really going on in sports, pretty much talk about like which games to watch for on Wednesday, and just like anything that's been interesting me. Or yeah, pretty much anything like that. So let's get started with today's show. So with the first game, we're going to recap for the NBA from Tuesday is Milwaukee versus Cleveland. Cleveland was the home team in that one. They won that one 124-119. Kevin Love had a really big game, probably his best game of the season so far, I'm sure. He had 32 points, 16 rebounds, and he shot 9 of 14. And that's really something that the Cleveland and LeBron needs because they've just been struggling so far this season. They picked up some big wins against Washington and Milwaukee, and they beat Boston. They beat Boston in their first game of the season, so maybe Cleveland's starting to figure it out. Right now, I'm not too high on them, but yeah, let's get on with it. LeBron James had 30 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. Typical LeBron game for him. Guy's just incredible. I still think he's the best player in the league, even with Kevin Durant out there, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's a tough one to pronounce, but yeah, he's been playing well, but I still think that this is LeBron's league. J.R. Smith had a pretty good game, 20 points, and shot 5 of 7 from the three-point line. Giannis had 40 points, 9 rebounds. He shot 16 of 21, and he's just been simply dominant. You can't really stop him at all. And it's just crazy, like how his size, like he's like around 7 feet tall, but his athleticism was like a point guard. Yeah, it's just really fun to watch him. Brogdon had 22 points, shot 4 of 6 from 3. And then Chris Middleton had 20 points, 11 assists, and 7 rebounds. Really solid game from him. And the Bucks they traded for Eric Bledsoe too, so they're going to be getting him coming to the team pretty soon. They gave away Greg Monroe and a first-round pick for him. So that's going to be a really big pickup for Milwaukee because he's a guy who can create his own shot. And it's been shown to us so far that, you know what, Giannis, he's going to need help. He can't do it on his own because when Brogdon or Middleton aren't having a good game or just aren't up to their standard, then the Bucks are going to lose. It's pretty much as simple as that. But yeah, let's get on to the next game. The Pelicans went into Indiana and won that one 117-112. Anthony Davis had a really big game, 37 points, 14 rebounds. I shot 4 of 18 from the field and 4 of 5 from 3, so just an all-around great game from Anthony Davis. DeMarcus Cousins had a really great game also, 32 points on 13 rebounds. And then Miles Turner, he's recently came back from his concussion. He had 21 points, 12 rebounds, and Victor Oladipo finally had a quiet game. He had 15 points in that one, so New Orleans is starting to pick it up. Last season when they had Boogie and Anthony Davis, it was really, you could tell like they were trying to figure out ways to gel. And right now New Orleans is still probably around the 8th seed or around there. I know it's early to be talking about seeding, but yeah, it's they're around there. And once they get Rondo back, I've been saying that they're going to get even better. So I really like them going forward. Surprising one, Dallas went into Washington and they won that one 113-99. Washington's been pretty disappointing so far this season. Harrison Barnes had 31 points, 9 rebounds. He shot 11 of 18 from the field. Dennis Smith Jr., he had a really good game. He had 22 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. I'm sure Dallas fans are really happy about that one. And John Wall had 23 points. Only took 10 shots in that game, but he did have 14 assists. So kind of want to see John Wall take a lot more shots and just take over a little bit more. Bradley Beal scored 23 points, but he only shot 8 of 20 from the field. So Washington's a team that's really scaring me right now, like not in a good way. But yeah, they're kind of making me nervous right now because I've been pretty high on them, and It seems like it's just John Wall, Bradley Beal, and then Otto Porter. He has a good game. He's been having a good season so far, but other than that, that's pretty much all they have, so they better figure it out. Charlotte went into New York to face off with the Knicks, and how about those Knicks? Kristaps Porzingis is leading them, and they're getting wins. I believe they're 5-3 right now. But yeah, the Knicks won that one against Charlotte, 118-113. Dwight Howard had a really good game, 21 points, 9 rebounds. Kemba Walker had a okay game. He had 21 points and 7 assists. Malik Monk finally showed up off the bench. He had 21 points, shot 8 of 17. And Kristaps Porzingis, like I said, he's just been leading that team. And I like this team a lot better than how they were when they had Melo. Like, by far, this team is so much better to watch. Porzingis had 28 points, 5 rebounds. He shot 10 of 15 and 4 of 8 from 3. And I think he had a go-ahead 3 with 15 seconds left in that game, too. And Doug McDermott, we all know him as Doug McBuckets. He finally showed up, 20 points, shot 7 of 8 and 3 of 3 from the three-point line. So he had a really good game. And Tim Hardaway's had a very consistent season so far. He had 19 points in that one. Chicago went into Toronto and lost that one. They lost 119-114. Robin Lopez had 20 points. Justin Holiday had 15. Bobby Portis, he had 21 points and 13 rebounds. DeMar DeRozan for Toronto had 24 points. Jonas Valanciunas had 21 points and 10 rebounds. And Kyle Lowry had a quiet game, but he contributed. He had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. Yeah, so Toronto came away with the win in that one. The Clippers went into San Antonio, faced off with the Spurs. They lost that one 120-107. Blake Griffin had a pretty poor game in that one. He had 15 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. And on paper, that seems like a good game, but he shot 4 of 13 for that game. And Greg Popovich always finds a way to somehow limit these superstar players in the league. And him and Brad Stevens are actually really good at doing that. Even Steve Kerr. Sorry, I drew a blank right there. But yeah, Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, and Brad Stevens always draw up good game plans in order to shut down these really good players. Austin Rivers had a good game, 24 points. He shot 4 of 6 from the three-point line. LaMarcus Aldridge scored 25 points and had 6 rebounds. Danny Green had 24 points. He shot 4 of 6 from 3, and I feel like that's been a bit of a little consistency right there. There's a lot of players that I've read off so far from these games that shot 4 of 6 from the three-point line. Pau Gasol, he had 19 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. That guy, he's an old man in the league, but he's producing still. And Rudy Gay came off the bench. He had 22 points and 7 rebounds. So, yeah, big win for the Spurs right there. I know that they've been losing a few. They lost, I think, 4 out of the last 5, I believe. I can't remember exactly. But, yeah, it's a big win for them, especially against the Clippers, because the Clippers have been playing really good so far this season. Brooklyn went into Denver. Denver won that one 112-104. Tyler Zeller, he had 21 points on 8 of 10 shooting. I'm sure most of those just came in the paint. D'Angelo Russell had a really off game, 12 points on 6 of 14 shooting, and Nikola Jokic had his best game of the season, 41 points, 12 rebounds and 5 assists. He took 25 shots in that game, and Jokic is one. He doesn't really get too much hype in the league, mainly because he probably is a center who doesn't shoot the basketball from the three-point line or can't dribble like Joel Embiid or play like Giannis Antetokounmpo. But he's one of the best centers in the league. He's probably a top 5 center, so it's time he starts getting his respect. Paul Millsap had 17 points, and yeah, they all contributed to the Denver win against Brooklyn. Philadelphia went into Utah. They won that one 104-97. Dario Saric had 25 points and 10 rebounds. Ben Simmons had 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists. He shot 7 of 22, but even with him shooting 7 of 22, it's good to see that he's out there trying to put up shots. I mean, your shot's only going to get better as you keep practicing it. And against a team like Utah, they have one of the worst offenses in the league. So, I mean, if you're going to get a lot of shots up, you might as well do it against a team like Utah. JJ Redick's had a really good year so far for the Philadelphia 76ers. He had 20 points, and Rodney Hood for the Utah Jazz had 19 points, and Rudy Gobert had 16 points and 15 rebounds. That was pretty much all the scoring they got from the biggest scoring they got for Utah. Donovan Mitchell, I think, took around, I think he took around 20 shots, 22 shots, and I can't remember exactly how many he made, but yeah, he had a really poor game in that one. But I mean, as a rookie, it's good to see that he's not short of confidence, because when you're short of confidence, you really can't play all too well. Memphis went into Portland, and Memphis won that one 98-97. Mike Conley had 20 points. Tyreek Evans had 21 points, and he's been a really solid player for Memphis. No one's really been talking about him because he's more of like the forgotten guy ever since he left the Kings. But yeah, like I said, he's just been playing really good so far off the bench. He shot 8 of 15. Damian Lillard had 12 points, and just a really poor game all around for him. CJ McCollum had a really good game, though. He had 36 points, and he shot 14 of 26 from the field. Excuse me. But, yeah, Portland's a team. There's such a disappointment to me. I mean, you have those two guys in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, but if one of them's going to have a bad game, then you're going to lose. And it's pretty much a given at this point. I don't understand. Like, I know they brought in Evan Turner last year, I believe it was, and they had Allen Crabbe, but they traded him away to Brooklyn, or they let him go. And I just don't understand. Like, they need to get more help for that team. I mean, they're like the Hawks the last few years. I mean, this year the Hawks are part of the worst team in the league, but the last few years, yeah, they're like the Hawks. They're going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to make any noise. They're just going to be there. They're going to be one of those consistent teams that are always going to win and make playoffs, but when it comes down to winning a series and playoffs or anything of that sort, then they're not going to do it. They're just going to lose in the first round, or maybe they get past the first round and make it to the second. But like I said, they're just a team. They're one of those middle of the pack teams that's always going to be there, but you know they're not going to do anything. So I really hope Portland does something going forward in this season. Probably brings in a solid player or two, but we'll see how that goes. And probably the most surprising game of the night, Oklahoma City went into Sacramento and they lost that one 94-86. Carmelo Anthony had 16 points, shot 4 of 17 from the field. Paul George had 12 points. He shot 4 of 16 from the field. And Russell Westbrook had 20 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and he shot 7 of 21. So really poor games all around for them. I mean, yeah, Westbrook put up 20 points and had 12 rebounds, 6 assists, but when you're taking 21 shots and missing 14 of them, that's not really too efficient of him. Zach Randolph, the old man of the Kings, leading by example, had 18 points and 8 rebounds. He shot 8 of 15 from the league, and he's just been... Zach Randolph's going to be one of those guys where he's going to be a consistent player for you, so he's going to be in the league for a while. I mean, eventually I'm sure he's not going to be at the Kings for too long because they have all these young guys, and I'm sure like next year is going to be the year where they're going to start starting other young guys a lot more. I feel like this year is more for the vets to groom them and help them develop. That's why you see guys like Vince Carter on the team, and they got like George Hill. They only signed George Hill to a 2-year deal, and I'm almost positive that the Kings are going to trade him either maybe this year, but more than likely next year. Buddy Hield, he's been coming off the bench. He had 21 points, shot 7 of 9, and 4 of 4 from 3. So, I mean, when he starts, he really doesn't have too many good games. But coming off the bench lately, he's been playing really well. So, you might just see Buddy Hield coming off the bench from now on. And Justin Jackson, he had a really solid game. He had 16 points. And, yeah, like I said, it was just a really surprising game. We're going to talk a little bit more about OKC in the third segment. But, yeah, Sacramento, they're not going to win too many games this season, but they're going to compete, and that's all you can ask for, I guess, as a Kings fan. And that's what you want to see from as a coach and Dave Yeager. So yeah, the Kings are a team that they're going to compete. They might pull out a couple of those sneaky wins against teams like OKC and all those other good teams, but yeah, it was a really fun one to watch. I was checking that one out last night. So yeah, those are how the games turned out. Next up, we're going to talk about the NFL games from Week 9, recap those. And then after that, like I said, we'll talk about the Thunder, about the Celtics, and for the last segment, we're just pretty much talk about whatever's going on in sports. So, yeah, stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Hey, are you looking to spice things up in the bedroom? Have you been fantasizing about surprising your lover with an adventurous new toy or adult movie? Well, AdamandEve.com has an offer you're not going to be able to resist. If you go to AdamandEve.com, and for a limited time only, you'll get 50% off just about any item. But that's not all they're offering. Oh no. When you select your one item at 50% off, you're also going to receive 3 free adult DVDs, just in case you need that little inspiration. Plus a free extra gift so sensual, I can't even mention it on this podcast. And to top that all off, they're even willing to throw in free shipping on your entire order. And we all know how we love that free shipping. And no, they're not kidding about any of this. So check out AdamandEve.com today for this special offer. Once again, you'll get 50% off one item when you type in the promo code SPORT upon checkout. When you do that, you'll get 3 free DVDs, a free extra gift, and that free shipping. Just use the offer code SPORT. Again, that's SPORT at AdamandEve.com. Once again, that's SPORT, SPORT at AdamandEve.com. All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. If you In the last segment, we recapped the NBA games from Tuesday night. I gave the scores and stats from each game, and we're going to do the same for the NFL games from Week 9. So let's get started. The Bills and the Jets played Thursday night. Jets won that one 34-21. Tyrod Taylor had 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, but he was sacked 7 times. LaShawn McCoy had 12 carries for 25 yards. Not a good game from him. Josh McCown, he had 140 yards for 1 touchdown, and Josh McCown has been really efficient for the Jets so far this season. He's not going to do too much, but he's going to do just enough to keep him in the game. Matt Forte had 14 carries for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. I picked him up actually in my fantasy team this week since they're going to be playing Tampa Bay. I suggest that you do the same. I really need him to step up for me this week, though, if I do end up starting him. And Bilal Powell had 9 carries for 74 yards, so just an all-around good game for the Jets. Right now they're 4-5, and the Bills are 5-4. The Atlanta Falcons went into Carolina, and they lost to the Panthers 20-17. Matt Ryan had 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Devontae Freeman had 11 carries for 46 yards. Julio Jones had 6 receptions for 118 yards, and he had a costly drop in the end zone. I think it was on 4th down late in the game, or it might have been the 4th quarter, so not too late, but yeah, 4th quarter. And I think Atlanta was down 20-10 at that point. And yeah, like I said, it was a 4th down. And if Julio, he's literally all by himself in the end zone on a deep route. Literally, no one is by him, and he just plain out just drops the ball in the end zone. So yeah, like I said, he had 6 receptions for 118 yards, but that drop is what's going to be talked about going forward. Cam Newton, I haven't been too high on him, but he's getting the wins. Had 137 yards, 9 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And that's something we haven't seen from Cam Newton the last couple of years, is him running the ball a lot. And I think he said, I can't remember exactly, but I think he said the other day that the coaching staff said, they gave him the go for running the football. So expect to see Cam Newton from the first couple of years when he first started out in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey had 15 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. I'm sure he's going to see an even bigger role now that Kelvin Benjamin is in Buffalo now. And Devin Funchess had a really good game. 5 receptions for 86 yards. And once again, Carolina pulled that one out 20-17. Atlanta's currently 4-4, I believe, and Carolina's 6-3, with about a half game behind New Orleans, who is 6-2 in the NFC South. Indianapolis went into Houston. They won that one 20-14. Jacoby Brissett had 308 yards. He completed 20 out of his 30 passes, and he had 2 touchdowns. And Jacoby Brissett is someone that I feel like once they figure out the Colts, once they figure out that whole Andrew Luck situation next year and when he's coming back, I feel that Jacoby Brissett is way too good to be a backup, and I feel like they can get maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick for him, probably more a 3rd or 4th round pick. A 2nd round pick would be pretty high. But yeah, I think that they can get some value for him, and I think that they should trade him next year. But we'll see about that. Frank Gore had 17 carries for 51 yards, and T.Y. Hilton had a really big game. He's been in the media a lot so far this season. I remember a couple of weeks ago he called out his offensive line, but in this game he had 5 receptions for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you had him on your fantasy team, I'm sure you're a really happy guy or girl. And Tom Savage, in his second start of the season, his first one came in Week 1, and his second one came in Week 9, and he went 19-44, passing the ball, had 219 yards and 1 touchdown. You could totally tell that with Deshaun Watson not out there and him and Tom Savage out there playing quarterback, offense is just completely different now. Will Fuller, I think, only had around 2 catches that game. Yeah, I believe he only had 2 catches that game, so you're going to see a drop in production from him. Lamar Miller had 57 yards rushing and 34 yards receiving. So, I mean, it's pretty much it's near around 100 yards right there. So, a pretty productive game from him. DeAndre Hopkins had 6 receptions, 86 yards, and 1 touchdown. And again, if you had him on your fantasy team, I'm sure you were kind of sweating it a little bit because Deshaun Watson's out there. So, you were probably thinking, oh, no, DeAndre Hopkins, his production's going to go down. But he had a really good game with 86 yards and a touchdown. Cincinnati went into Jacksonville. Jacksonville won that one 23-7. Really had no doubt about that game whatsoever. I don't think there was any way that Jacksonville would have lost to Cincinnati just based off of how Cincinnati's been playing on offense, and Jacksonville currently has the best defense in the league. That could be debated, but I mean, you're probably not going to win too many of those if you're arguing against them. Andy Dalton only had 136 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and he only threw the ball 18 times, and he completed 10 passes. Joe Mixon had a decent game on the ground and receiving the ball. He had 31 yards rushing and a touchdown. A.J. Green only had 1 reception for 6 yards in that game, but he was ejected pretty early on in the game along with Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey went up to AJ Green and shoved him to the ground, and then AJ Green gets up, and I don't think Jalen Ramsey saw him, and it was kind of funny actually. AJ Green put him in a chokehold and then took him to the ground, and it was just pretty much like a UFC style type of fight. I'm sure they got pretty excited after watching those fights from Saturday, but yeah, AJ Green was ejected in that one. Blake Bortles had 259 yards and a touchdown. He's been pretty solid so far this season. He's not what they expected him to be when they drafted him. I'm sure everyone thought, yeah, he's going to throw for over 300 yards, plenty of touchdowns. But you know what, Blake Bortles in this new role where he's pretty much throwing the ball when he's needed, and other than that, don't do too much. He's been doing pretty well in that role. Chris Ivory started in this game because Doug Marrone suspended Leonard Fournette for missing team pictures earlier in the week, and I think later on in the week he showed up late for a meeting. I can't remember exactly what the second one was for, but that's a pretty risky move from a head coach who's currently coaching a team who's fighting for a playoff spot and fighting for their division right now. But it worked out for them since Cincinnati really didn't show up to play. So yeah, it's a really, like I said, it was a risky move, but it worked out for Doug Marrone, and that helps build a culture in that city for that team. Marquise Lee had 8 receptions for 75 yards and 1 touchdown, and he's been the one who stepped up since Allen Robinson went down with his injury early on in the season. And I'm sure most expected it to be Allen Hurns. He had that really good year I think it was 2 years ago where he had around 10 touchdowns, possibly a little bit more. I can't remember exactly, but ever since that year, Allen Hurns has been really quiet. So yeah, Marquise Lee has done well so far to step up and take over that number 1 receiver role. As for the next game, Tampa Bay went into New Orleans and they got blown out. I believe the score was 30-10. Yeah, I think the score was 30-10. New Orleans won that one. Jameis Winston finished. He came out of the game, I believe, at halftime. He had 7 completions, out of 13 attempts, only had 67 yards. And before I get into the stats for the rest of the game, Tampa Bay is going to be shutting down Jameis Winston for the next few weeks. And personally, I think they should shut him down for the rest of the season. Currently has a shoulder injury, and I think it's a throwing shoulder. That's what's hurting him. So you really don't want to see what happened to Andrew Luck happen to Jameis. So if I'm the Bucs, I'm just shutting him down for the season. They only have 2 wins so far, and they're not making the playoffs. I promise you that. So even if they're thinking about that, just stop and just shut down Jameis because there's nothing to play for the rest of the season. But yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick came in that game, the Harvard man, completed 8 out of 15 passes, 68 yards and a touchdown. Doug Martin really let down my fantasy team. I'm trying to trade him this week. He had 8 carries for 7 yards. Deshaun Jackson was Tampa Bay's leading receiver with only 2 receptions and 25 yards. And yeah, that's a really terrible game for the receivers all around. If Deshaun Jackson is your leading receiver and he has 2 receptions for 25 yards, it's just brutal right there. Never going to win playing like that. Drew Brees had 263 yards for 2 touchdowns. Mark Ingram had a solid game, 16 carries for 77 yards, but he was not the best running back in that game. The best running back in that game went to Alvin Kamara. Had 68 yards rushing and 1 touchdown, and he had 6 catches, I believe, for 84 yards and 1 touchdown as far as receiving goes. And on that touchdown he scored, he pretty much turned the Bucs defense into a Pee Wee League defense. I'm not sure, Pop Warner for those who know it by that, but yeah, Tampa Bay's defense has just been terrible so far this season. I don't want to say garbage because I don't want to be too harsh about them, but yeah, they've been playing terrible so far this season. I'm sure most expected them to play well this coming season, but yeah, like I said, they just can't tackle to save their lives, and Alvin Kamara made them look silly throughout the game. Michael Thomas, he had 8 receptions for 65 yards, no touchdowns. Really could have used the touchdown on my fantasy team, but I'll take the 8 receptions and 65 yards since it's a PPR league. Ted Ginn Jr., he's been productive this season. Drew Brees has tried hard to find him, and Ted Ginn had 4 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. And once again, New Orleans won that one 30-10, I believe. The LA Rams went into New York, and they just dominated that one. They put a 50 spot up on New York. I believe the final score was 53-17. I can't remember exactly. Let me double check that right now. But Jared Goff had a really good game. He finished that one with over 311 yards and 4 touchdowns. And actually, yeah, the game was 51-17, so I was only 2 off. Yeah, so the Giants just didn't show up at all to play. It was just Rams all day. I think they scored a touchdown on a 3rd and 33 in that game, and it was like a slant route. I can't remember which receiver caught the ball and scored the touchdown, but he ran pretty much a slant, and he literally ran about maybe 20 yards to get the first down and took it all the way for a touchdown, and he was untouched the entire way going. Like, he didn't really break any tackles. He just, boom, as soon as he catches it, turns upfield and just untouched all the way to the end zone. So, yeah, the Giants just had a really poor game. Robert Woods had 4 receptions for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley had 59 yards, and I can't remember exactly if he scored any touchdowns. Let me double check that right now. Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns on 59 yards rushing, and Sammy Watkins had probably about as efficient as a game as you can have. He had 1 catch for 69 yards and a touchdown, or 67 yards, excuse me. Yeah, 1 catch, 67 yards, and a touchdown. So, yeah, the Rams won that one big, 51-17. There's not really too many stats that you can say for the Giants. I mean, Eli Manning had 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Orleans Darkwa had 16 carries for 71 yards, and Evan Ingram, he's been a solid tight end ever since all those receivers went out with injuries. He had 4 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. Giants are currently 1-7, and the Rams are 6-2. And look for the Giants to most likely sit Eli Manning in the upcoming weeks for the rest of the season, because there's really no point to have him out there. I mean, you really need to look towards the future. I mean, yeah, like I said, they're 1-7. They're not going to be playing for anything other than a high draft pick. So, yeah, just sit the starters and see what you got for the future. For the next game, Denver went into Philadelphia. They got blown out in that one too. Philadelphia put up another 50 spot in that one. Had 51 points. Denver only scored 23. Brock Osweiler came in. I know we were all excited to watch him. He had 208 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and his first interception actually came in the first quarter, so it didn't take too long for him to get going. And Demaryius Thomas had 8 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. Really solid game out of him. And Demaryius Thomas, ever since Peyton Manning left, he's been pretty consistent for them. He's always out there doing his job, so it's good to see from him. Carson Wentz only had 199 yards, but he did throw for 4 touchdowns. Jay Ajayi was limited in that game as far as carries go. He had 8 carries, but he made the most of them. He had 77 yards and a touchdown. And Alshon Jeffrey had a really good game. 6 receptions for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like I said, Philly came out of that one with the win, 51-23. I think Denver is currently 3-5, and Philly, I think, is 8-1. So, yeah, playing really well, and they're currently the best team in the NFL. Baltimore went into Tennessee, and Tennessee won that one 23-20. Excuse me. Marcus Mariota finally looked at 100%. Mike Mularkey came out after the bye and said that his hamstring is fully healed, and he played like it. He had, I think it was 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Derrick Henry only had 8 carries. He had 26 yards and a touchdown. Delaney Walker had 5 receptions for 71 yards, and Rashard Matthews had a solid game. 4 receptions, 70 yards, and 1 touchdown. As far as Baltimore goes, Joe Flacco had 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Alex Collins had 13 carries for 43 yards, so down game from his game against Miami, where I believe he had around 18 carries for 113 yards. And Jeremy Maclin had a really big game. 8 catches for 98 yards, but no touchdowns. And once again, Tennessee came out with that one, 23-20. Arizona went into San Francisco and beat San Francisco. They won 20-10. That's the last time all season I'm picking the 49ers in anything. Drew Stanton had 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So a pretty good game from him. And Adrian Peterson had a career high in carries. He had 37 carries for 159 yards. Larry Fitzgerald had a really good game. The guy's been consistent his whole career. He had 5 receptions for 70 yards. And the only notable person on San Francisco's offense was C.J. Beathard, the quarterback. He had 294 yards, and I believe he threw an interception. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, he had 294 yards throwing the ball. And sure, Jimmy Garoppolo was watching that game thinking, you know what, should I be here? Do I want to be here after this season? So hopefully San Francisco picks it up, so Jimmy Garoppolo wants to be there. As for the next game, this one was a bit of a surprising one too. The Redskins went into Seattle, and the Redskins won that one 17-14. Kirk Cousins had one of those games where, you know what, it's going to help him get paid in the offseason. He only had 247 yards and no touchdowns, but we'll talk a little bit more about why this game was going to help him get paid in the offseason. Rob Kelly had 14 carries for 18 yards and 2 touchdowns, so can't be too mad about that. Vernon Davis had 6 receptions for 72 yards. Russell Wilson had a decent game, 297 yards, throwing the ball, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He had 10 carries for 77 yards also. And Doug Baldwin had 7 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown. And he got what looked to be the game-winning touchdown with about 1:30 left. But here's why Kirk Cousins is going to get paid in the offseason. Kirk Cousins, he had around 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go. and he drove Washington all the way down the field in order to help Robert Kelly get his touch near the goal line, punch it in for the win. And games like that, or drives like that, is what's going to help him get paid. So it's a good job by Kirk Cousins right there. Kansas City went into Dallas, and Dallas pulled that one out 28-17. Alex Smith had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Kareem Hunt only had 9 carries for 37 yards, and it looks like he's starting to slow down from his little, I'll just say, yeah, he was having a really good season so far, averaging over 100 yards, but now in back-to-back games, he's been held to under 45 yards, I believe it was. Travis Kelce had 7 receptions for 73 yards and 1 touchdown, and Tyreek Hill only had 2 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown, but that touchdown came right there at the end of the first half. He caught it around the 30-yard line, and Dallas had all their defenders back around the 15 or 10, and Tyreek Hill somehow found a way to get through them and scored a touchdown untouched. So, yeah, Kansas City lost that one 28-17. They've lost 3 out of the last 4. And then for the final game, which was on, or actually, no, not the final game. We have 2 more, but the Sunday night game, Oakland won that one 27-24, excuse me. Derek Carr had 300 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Marshawn Lynch had a pretty good game, 14 carries, 57 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jared Cook was unstoppable in that game. He had 8 receptions for 126 yards. He caught the first 3 passes of the game, too. Miami just really didn't have an answer for him. Jay Cutler had his best game of the season. He completed, I think, 16 out of 17 passes in the first half, and then finished the game with 311 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kenyon Drake had an okay game. I'd say it's only okay because he had 9 carries, 69 yards, but he had a costly fumble in the first half that really Miami really didn't need because they were starting to build up some momentum. Julius Thomas had his best game of the season. He had 6 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. And Devontae Parker, in his first game back after coming off an ankle injury, after a couple of weeks, he had 5 receptions for 76 yards. So yeah, Miami's currently 4-4, I believe, and now Oakland is 4-5. So watch out for Oakland. They have a bye coming up, and then they got New England after that. So we'll see how they do. As for the Monday night game, no surprises there. Detroit won that one 30-17. Green Bay is now 4-4. Detroit is 4-4 also. Matt Stafford went 26-33 passing the ball, 361 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mir Abdullah had a decent game, 21 carries, 48 yards and a touchdown. Golden Tate also had a really good game. He had actually both starting receivers for the Lions had a good game. Golden Tate had 7 receptions for 113 yards. Marvin Jones Jr. had 7 catches, 107 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he had one of those Marvin Jones games where it's just a really big game stat-wise. Brett Hundley, he had a not too bad of a game. I mean, he didn't throw for any touchdowns, but he also didn't throw any interceptions. He went 26-38 throwing the ball, and he had 245 yards. Green Bay's leading rusher was Ty Montgomery with 5 carries and 33 yards. They really didn't run the ball too much that game. And as far as receiving goes for Green Bay, Randall Cobb had 5 catches for 58 yards, no touchdowns. Devontae Adams had 7 catches for 53 yards, and Jordy Nelson had 4 catches for 35. So not too many big games out of them, but yeah, that's how Week 9 played out. I mean, it was a really interesting week, given all the fights and all that happened. But I mean, going forward, we're going to see how everything plays out. This playoff race is starting to get a little bit tighter, so it's going to be fun to see. But that's going to wrap it up for that segment. Next up, we're going to be talking some NBA, talking about the Celtics and Thunder. We'll say some good things about the Celtics and some bad things about the Thunder, so stay tuned.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. In the last segment, we recapped the we recap the Week 9 MNFL games, and we did the same for Tuesday night's NBA games in the first segment. And for this one, we're going to talk some more NBA. We're going to talk about what's wrong with the Thunder, and after that, we're going to talk about the Celtics. So let's get it started. First off, I want to talk about the Thunder. They lost to the Kings. I think it was 93-85. Let me double check that score right now. But yeah, the Thunder so far, they've been really disappointing. They're 4-6 right now, and they just, I feel like we all should have saw this coming. Yeah, they have Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Russell Westbrook, but those are all guys. Oh, before I get into it, the score of yesterday's game was 94-86, so I was just a little bit off. But yeah, they're 4-6 right now, and then when you have those three guys, we all know that they need the ball. Those are all primary ball handlers right there. They all do well when they have the ball. So we've seen a lot so far this season. One of them will take the ball up, or Russell Westbrook would take the ball up, and then he's going to dish it out to Paul George, and boom, just takes a shot right there instantly. So, and the same with Carmelo. They all take bad shots, and that's what's going to hurt him. I've been telling people, and I'm not too sure if this is going to be a popular opinion or anything like that, but I've been telling people, you know what? If the Warriors and the Thunder meet each other in the playoffs, the Warriors are going to sweep them, and I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Really not high on the Thunder at all. They take too many bad shots, and they're never, their defense is good, but their offense, when you're taking all those bad shots, you're going to miss a lot. And sure, you're going to score maybe around 20, 25 points a game, but yeah, you're going to be doing that when you're taking about 25 shots. And a lot of them are just contested threes. So it's just the Thunder have been really disappointing so far. And honestly, I don't want to sound like a know-it-all or anything, but I saw this coming. You can't have those three guys on one team and expect to be compete with the Warriors, let alone even the Rockets. Sorry, I drew a blank right there. But yeah, you can't expect those three guys to compete with the Rockets. It's just three guys right there who need the ball. And like I said, they're just going to take bad shots constantly. So, them starting out 4-6, I guess it's a little surprising because you have three top 15, probably top 20. I'm not sure if Melo's a top 15 player right now in the NBA, so I'll go top 20 just to be generous. Yeah, you got three top 20 players. Paul George and Russell Westbrook can be argued to be in the top 10. And Russell Westbrook even top 5. But yeah, right now you have those guys, and they just haven't gelled at all. And it just doesn't seem like something that's going to work. I think this is Paul George's last year on his contract. So, I'm sure, I think that OKC, they're going to get bounced in the second round of the playoffs if they make it there. And like I said, if they play the Warriors, they're going to get swept. And I have no doubt about that. They might steal a game, but if I had to put my life savings on there, and that's not much at all, but if I had to do something like that, then I'm putting it on a sweep because I just don't trust the Thunder at all. And they're not going to be any match for the Warriors at all. Even if, let's say, Kevin Durant were to get hurt or Draymond Green, still like the Warriors in a sweep, probably maybe 5 games. But with a full healthy Warriors team, OKC stands no chance whatsoever. It's just, you can't. OKC is just, they're going to be a disappointment this season. So just be ready for that. And now let's talk a little bit about the Celtics. They're currently 9-2 on a 9-game win streak. They lost their first 2 games of the season to Cleveland. That was the first game where Gordon Hayward broke his ankle, and then that second game it was a back-to-back, and they lost to the Bucks now. And ever since then, they've just been playing amazing defense. They're finally rebounding the ball. Daniel Tice has been a big pickup. Aaron Baines has been one of my favorite players for the Celtics right now. He's not going to score around 15 points a game or anything like that, but he's like a Kendrick Perkins type of player for that team. That's something they've needed for so long. I remember when Kendrick Perkins went down in the he was suspended, I think it was. I can't remember exactly, but he missed Game 7 in 2010 finals. And I think that Boston would have won that game if Kendrick Perkins wasn't out. I think the Lakers had around 14 offensive rebounds that game. So yeah, him being out, I know it was 2010. And I'm having a lot of flashbacks right now. But yeah, Aaron Baines reminds me a lot of Kendrick Perkins. Al Horford could be argued. We all know Kyrie's the most talented on that team. But right now, you can argue that Al Horford means the most to the Celtics right now. He's been playing really well so far. There's been a lot of talk about, is Al Horford worth his contract? And I know the popular answer has been no, he's not. But hate to break it to you, but he is, okay? He averages around 14 points a game. I think he's averaging around 9 rebounds too, and he's always good for around 5 assists too. So that's just constant production out of him. When he's having his best game, Boston's most likely going to win. And when he's playing poor, then you know what? Boston's chances aren't looking too good. But as far as Boston being the best team in the league right now, like I said, they are 9-2, have the best defense in the league statistically. and they won 9 straight. And I'm not ready to give them best team in the league right now because the Warriors are still in the league. I know the Warriors are, I think, 7-3 right now, 6-3. Can't remember exactly the record. But as of right now, I'm going to call Boston the second best team in the league. Best team in the East by far. Cleveland is not. They're not even a top 5 team in the East right now, just based off of how they're playing. I know the players they have, and I know that's an unpopular opinion. But yeah, Cleveland is not a good team right now. They could pick it up, and I'm sure they will. But as of right now, Cleveland, not good at all. Washington's been very disappointing. The Bucks started off hot, but if you don't have Malcolm Brogdon and Chris Middleton having good games every game, then solid games every game, then they're going to lose because Giannis needs help. We'll see how Eric Bledsoe helps them. And then I don't think Detroit's going to be able to sustain their success right now. They could. I mean, they could finish maybe a 5th or 6th seed, but they're not going to be near the top, I don't think. Toronto's a iffy team for me right now. They've stayed the same. They didn't really bring anyone in new, so we'll see how they go for the rest of the season. And what other team am I missing? I know there's one other. Oh, yeah, the Magic. They're really young right now, playing really well. I don't expect them to sustain their success either. I'm sure they'll make the playoffs. But, yeah, as of right now, there's no doubt that Boston is currently the best team in the East. They're playing like it. Kyrie's starting to get more comfortable in that team. Jason Tatum is the second best rookie in the league right now. And if you want to debate me on that one, go ahead. He's better than Lonzo. He's better than Kuzma. He's better than Smith. He's better than, what other rookies are? Donovan Mitchell. The only one that he's not better than right now is Ben Simmons, obviously. And Ben Simmons is going to run away with that Rookie of the Year award. I have no doubt about that. That guy's just been lights out so far. And I'm sure Philly's really excited about their future. Hopefully when Marco Fultz, his shoulder gets all healed up, because I really want to see him do well. But yeah, as far as the Celtics go, you got Jaylen Brown, who's playing really well. And then one of my favorite players on that team is actually Semi Ojeleye. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce his last name, but it's like Ojeleye or something like that. It's one of those tongue twister type of names. But yeah, he's a good 3-and-D player right now. And he acknowledges that. He knows that, you know what, if I want to be in this league for a long time, then I got to hit my 3-pointers and I got to play defense. And so far he's been doing really well at that. I mentioned Daniel Tice earlier. He's been playing really good defense for them so far. And actually, yeah, him, Tice, Ojeleye, and Tatum, those are 3 rookies right now. And they're contributing big time to the Celtics team. And if you got your rookies playing well, I mean, that sets up well for the future. And like they're putting in like really productive minutes. They're not rookies just coming in for 10 minutes a game or around 8 minutes a game, just doing whatever they can. No, they're playing meaningful minutes in these games. And now they got Marcus Morris back up. Pretty sure it's Marcus Morris. I know he's got a twin brother, Markieff. I'm pretty sure that's the one that plays for the Washington. But you got Marcus Morris. He's back. He's going to be more of an enforcer type of guy, getting rebounds, and he can score maybe around 10 points a game too if he's needed to. And I'm not sure if I mentioned Jaylen Brown earlier, but yeah, he's finally starting to look like he's coming into his own. He needs to work on his shot a little bit, but yeah, he's been playing really well so far. So the Celtics are just a team I'm really high on right now. Currently 9-2. Just playing really well. The defense is what I've been surprised about, because they got rid of Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley, and Avery Bradley was pretty much that anchor on defense, just shutting down anyone who was put in his place or put in front of him. He had really good games defensively against the Warriors last year, and pretty much whenever the opposition came in, they had one of the best players in the league as far as a guard or even a small forward, then you had Avery Bradley right there guarding him, and he did well. So it was kind of a question to see how the Celtics defense would be. And I want to say right now that they're even better than last year's team as far as defense goes. Their rim protectors are playing really well so far, and I know that that's been a big problem for them the last few seasons, and they finally addressed it, it looks like. So yeah, as of right now, the best teams in the league, I'm going to go for the Warriors at number 1, and then right behind them is the Celtics. So yeah, that's how I feel about the Celtics. And once again about the Thunder, not too high on them at all. Just Carmelo Anthony. I've never really been a big Melo fan. I'm just going to say that right now. I've never really been a big Melo fan. Didn't like him in New York. Felt like he's more of a me player. He takes bad shots a lot. And yeah, he's a really good scorer. But like I said, he's just going to take a lot of bad shots. And same with Paul George right now so far this season. Paul George, he's not even playing better than Victor Oladipo. And I believe his name is Domantas Sabonis. I know his last name is Sabonis. I can't remember his first name. But yeah, he's not even playing better than him. And those are the players that Indiana got for trading Paul George. And I'm sure Indiana's really happy right now with how those guys have been playing and how their team has been playing. So yeah, Paul George needs to step it up. Carmelo Anthony needs to step it up. They need to start playing team ball and start sharing the ball instead of taking around 20 bad shots a game and making 5 of them. Because like I said, once they play the Warriors in the playoffs, I expect them to get swept. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, as far as everything else goes, I mean, the NBA so far hasn't disappointed. It's been a really fun season so far. Really liked how the Celtics have played. and we'll talk a little bit about their game against the Lakers in the next segment. But yeah, we'll see how it all goes. Right now, the Warriors are still the top dog, but Celtics are right on their heels. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. The next segment, we're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk Jim Irsay. He's back in the news again. Well, Tony Dungy put him back in the news, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about Josh Gordon. He recently had a GQ article come out. I'm going to talk about what was said in there from Josh. And Teddy Bridgewater is going to be back, so we'll talk a little bit about him, and then talk about games to watch for Wednesday and pretty much anything else that has interested me so far this week in sports. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun last segment.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back for the last segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast. Almost said football. That's the other one I run. But yeah, this is the GSMC Sports Podcast. The last segment, we talked about the Celtics and Thunder. I gave my thoughts on the Thunder. There wasn't really too many nice thoughts about them. Gave a lot of nice thoughts about the Celtics. But yeah, we talked about them and talked some more basketball later on in the segment. But I want to get started with the NFL first. Just go over some storylines right there. And it's well known that, you know what, the Cleveland Browns they do have the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL right now. But Jim Irsay every year, he always does something to be like, you know what, is it the Colts? Or should we put the Colts as the most dysfunctional franchise instead of the Browns? And if you didn't hear about it, Jim Irsay, not recently, it was actually Tony Dungy recently, I think it was on the Dan Patrick Show, came out and said that Jim Irsay said that Andrew Luck's shoulder injury was all in his head right now, and it's just a mental thing he needs to get over. And wow, Jim Irsay, what are you doing here, buddy? I mean, you've never really done anything to really say some good headlines for you. You've always done something to put yourself in the bad headlines, and here you go again, just doing exactly that, putting yourself in the bad headlines. Andrew Luck is your best quarterback. Again, you lucked out on Andrew Luck. You got Andrew Luck right after Peyton Manning, and you're out here saying that his shoulder injury is in his head. I mean, we don't know for sure. Who knows? Maybe, let's say it is. You still don't say that about your franchise quarterback, because I know that's not going to make Andrew Luck happy. There's no way it can. It's just going to make him even more frustrated or mad. And, I mean, it might not do anything. Andrew Luck might already have his thoughts on Jim Irsay and just not think too high of him. But either way, this isn't something that you say about your starting quarterback, Jim Irsay. You're not Jerry Jones, okay? Yeah, that's what I'm going to say right now. Jim Irsay, you're not Jerry Jones. Go behind the curtain, stay there, own the team, pay the bills, do all that, write the checks. Just stay quiet for once, Jim Irsay. Why do you always have to be like Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones, he has it figured out. He's the GM of his team, okay? He knows what he's doing. Jerry Jones is a respected man around the NFL, so he can just, he's respected. So he doesn't even say outlandish things like Jim Irsay does or says or anything like that. And I feel like Jim Irsay is just trying too hard to take that Jerry Jones role, and he's failing at it. Jerry Jones, he's a guy, he knows what he's doing, okay? Jim Irsay, you're just an owner right now. Just kick back and, like I said, just write the checks, and that's all you need to do. Let the football guys handle the football stuff, okay? Jerry Jones is a football guy. He's the GM, like I said. Jim Irsay, you're not a football guy. Don't say that your franchise quarterback's injury is in his head, because that's just going to ruin everything. Like, I just don't get it with this guy. Why does he feel like he needs to be in the headlines constantly? And I know that it was Tony Dungy who came out and brought these comments to light, but even saying that, like, you got to know, like, everything Jim Irsay has done has come out, and he's had trouble in the past. Like, just doesn't make sense to me. Why do you always need to be in the headlines? It's just frustrating to see, and I just don't get it from him. But yeah, that was my quick little 5-minute rant about that. I can go on more. And you know what, I might later on in the segment, because like it's just frustrating to see. Like, I don't understand why these owners, like your owners, just be owners, write the checks and bring in the front office guys, but other than that, let the players do the talking, let the coaches do the talking. Like, just be the owners for once. Stay in your lane right there. Okay, the only guy who gets a pass, like I said, is Jerry Jones, but he knows what he's doing. He's shown us that. These other guys out here are just saying whatever they want, and it's constantly in bad headlines. So yeah, Jim Irsay, take a seat, watch the games from your press box, and that's it. Don't talk about your players or anything else like that. You're not a football guy, okay? You've shown us that over the past few years. You're just simply not a football guy. When you say stuff, it sounds like you don't think. So just take a seat and just kick back. But yeah, all right, I'm done with that, okay? Let's get into some... Actually, this is kind of a good story and a bad story. Good story because going forward it should be. Bad story because it's what happened in the past. Josh Gordon recently did a GQ interview, and in that interview he said that he used to get, he was I'm not going to say exactly, but he was under the influence pretty much before every game, whether it was drinking or smoking. He was doing one of those before every game, even since during his time in Baylor. He said that he'd get tested probably during the week, and after that he'd have a couple of days to do what he wanted, and he always had like a couple of days after the games to be able to get his body right and be able to pass those drug tests and alcohol tests. And that's just crazy to me. He's been doing it since Baylor, and I'm not gonna say like it's kind of impressive or anything like that, because it's not. You never want to see a guy drinking or smoking or just being under the influence before a game, because that's honestly, he had a really bad addiction. And if you think about it, the NFL saved his life by suspending him the way that he did. Because if they don't suspend him how they did, and they just, I guess, I mean, there's no way I'm sure that they could have let it keep going on, but they just would have, let's say they would have just kicked him out the league completely or something like that. Josh Gordon, who knows what could have happened to him? He might have not fixed this problem, and yeah, like I just said, we don't know what could have happened with him, but the NFL might have saved his life. But it's just crazy to hear that this guy was under the influence for every game, and he was out there. He put up two back-to-back 200-yard receiving games. One of them was against Keep Talib, and it's just a crazy story. And I'm glad, like now going forward, it seems like he's got his head on straight. So I'm really excited to see how he's going to be playing going forward. I actually picked him up on my fantasy team. I think last week it was, and it's exciting. Josh Gordon, when he's out there, he's one of the best receivers in the league. And I know it's a small sample size, but just Josh Gordon is explosive. I think it was Josh Campbell. I can't remember exactly his name. It was Campbell. He used to play for the Redskins. I can't remember his first name exactly, but yeah, he made him and Brandon Weeden look like competent quarterbacks. And Campbell was he was a better quarterback than Weeden by far, but he wasn't great or anything like that. But yeah, like I said, Josh Gordon was out there just making them look good with these back-to-back 200-yard games, and just his production was just through the roof. And I'm just really excited to see. Hopefully he comes back just better than ever. He says that his goal is to be the best receiver in the NFL, and you know what? I mean, yeah, he's been out for a couple of years, but that's not something like RG3 saying, you know, I'm the best quarterback in the league, because we know how he used to do that when he was a rookie and in his next year. This is not something that's far-fetched. This is something that's a possibility. Josh Gordon is built like a beast. He can do whatever he wants as far as running routes and catching the he's and it's pretty much like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the NBA. Giannis is 7 feet tall, but he moves like he's a point guard. He just crazy athleticism. And he just does what he wants, and you can't stop him. You can only hope to stop the people around him and hope that's what's going to help you win games. That's exactly what Josh Gordon is. You're not going to stop Josh Gordon. He showed us that in the beginning of his career when he was playing. You're not going to stop the guy. He's going to do what he wants, and you can just hope and pray that you're going to be able to stop it. But other than that, you're not really going to be able to do too much. Josh Gordon is a beast, and just really excited to see how he does when he comes back. I believe he's going to be coming back around week 13, I believe it is. So I'm just really excited to see this guy going on. He's just a great player. I'm really excited because I'm really high on DeShone Kizer. He really hasn't been given too much of a chance in Cleveland with how he's been handled so far this season. So I'm really hoping for Cleveland that Josh Gordon comes back, plays well, and builds up DeShone Kizer's confidence. So we'll see how that goes. Another good story, Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to be active this Sunday for week 10. He's going to be the backup for Case Keenum, but I mean, Minnesota's got to be extremely happy about this because Case Keenum has been playing really well so far this season. He's not out there throwing lights out or anything like that, but he's doing his job, and he's not throwing interceptions or anything like that. He's just I'm really excited about Minnesota too, actually. And I don't know if you could tell, but that whole Jim Irsay rant got me pretty fired up, so I'm pretty excited right now. But yeah, I'm really excited for Teddy Bridgewater coming back. It's really one guy you want to see succeed. He's hasn't had any problems or anything like that. He's just a really good guy, at least from, I don't know him personally or anything like that, but from what he's shown us, he's been a really good guy. He's a good quarterback too. So yeah, hopefully Case Keenum, plays well throughout the season, he gets to keep his job. But like, say if he has a bad game or anything like that and they throw Teddy in there, I mean, it's not going to be a drop off, and maybe it'll be a bit of an upgrade for the Vikings. So I expect Stephon Diggs to start picking up his play a lot more now that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be back. But like I said, we'll see. The Vikings are a fun team to watch right now. They're 6-2, and they don't get too much respect. And I know that they haven't really been getting from me either, because I think my last football show I did on the podcast, I put teams into 5 different tiers, and yeah, the Vikings are 6-2, but I put them in that second tier, so maybe they can prove me wrong and show that they belong up there, but we'll see about that. And as far as everything else goes, I mean, interesting things going on in sports this week. We're going to see what goes on with Ezekiel Elliott. We're going to see if he's suspended, if he's going to get suspended, if he's not. I'm hoping that he's not, mainly because I don't think he should be. I think this is more of an NFL trying to show their power type of situation right here, because he was never charged for what he did, and I'm not really going to get into that because it's over and done with now. Now we're just pretty much at is he going to be suspended or not? And I'm really pulling that he's not. One of the reasons why, I'm not going to lie, he's on my fantasy team and I need him going forward. I'm currently one of my last 4 in that league, and it's going to be need him for the playoff push. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's more than likely that he will be suspended, just based how it's all went down. I mean, it's pretty much, you're suspended. No, I'm going to appeal. He appeals. Okay, you could play this amount of games. Now you're suspended. No, I'm appealing. Okay, you can play this game. Suspended. No, I'm appealing. And now we're back. Okay, is he going to be suspended or not? I don't think he's going to be able to appeal this one. So we're going to see how that goes. And as far as everything else interesting, oh yeah, I saw recently, I was watching ESPN, or I was actually reading an article, and it said that the GM, I think it's Brian Cashman, GM of the Yankees, said that Joe Girardi didn't connect with his players, and that's one of the reasons why he was fired. And I think that's just a bunch of baloney right there. That's an old reference right there. Got that one from my grandpa, but yeah, I'm not buying into that one at all. They went to the ALCS, and with those young guys, I mean, usually if your coach isn't connecting, your team's not going to play all too well unless the Yankees young guys are just all really that good and they really don't need coaching or anything like that at all. But yeah, I'm not really buying into that. And yeah, those are the 2 interesting things that I've seen this week. And just pretty much, let's get into what games to watch for Wednesday. Let's get started with, I'm going to be mostly NBA games because there's no NFL games. Baseball's done, and I know this show doesn't really give hockey too much love, but it is what it is. There's going to be a really fun one on ESPN later tonight at 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern. Lakers are going to be heading into Boston facing off with the Celtics. It's going to be Lonzo Ball versus Jason Tatum. I'm not going to say Lonzo Ball versus Kyrie Irving because right now Lonzo just simply isn't on Kyrie's level, and he's not even better than Jason Tatum right now. But that's going to be a fun one to see. Al Horford's going to be out for this game. It's believed he's in concussion protocol right now, and he dealt with that a lot last season, so it's kind of sad to see. Boston really needs him, and you know, I was really high on Boston for this game, thinking, oh yeah, they're going to beat the Lakers, but with Al Horford out, you're thinking, you know what, they're on a 9-game win streak, Al Horford's out, but yeah, Al Horford's out, and he's just like the anchor of that team, the heart and soul right there. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game to see. This could be a steal for right here, the Lakers. They could steal this one out of Boston and come away with the win. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Even with Horford out, I'm still going to go Boston in that game. But, like I said, don't sleep on the Lakers in this one. Another fun one is going to be the New York Knicks at the Orlando Magic. That's going to be at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And I really like this one because it's going to be Porzingis versus the young guys of the Magic. Aaron Gordon's been playing really well so far. Evan Fournier's been playing well. And Kristaps Porzingis is the franchise. He's been a fun player to watch. I mean, he's I don't know exactly how much he's averaging. Let me double check that right now. He's averaging 30 points a game right now. And he's just been lights out so far this season. He's just a fun guy to watch. And I'm not going to lie, I've never really been big on the New York Knicks or any New York teams. I can't stand the New York media because they hype them up like they're these great teams. I mean, yeah, the Yankees are a great team, And but the Knicks haven't won a championship since 1975, so I've been kind of don't really like the hype around them. But the Knicks are starting to grow on me right now. Maybe it was just Melo playing for them, but yeah, the Knicks are starting to grow on me. They're 6-4. Orlando's 6-4. It's gonna be a fun game to watch, especially because it's just a bunch of young guys playing basketball. And then the second game on ESPN is going to be Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Warriors. That's going to be at 7:30, 10:30 Eastern. And before I get into that game, I just want to say how much I love living on the West Coast. We really don't have to stay up for these games. I feel bad for the people in the East because, yeah, like I said, they have to stay up till 10 sometimes just to watch a game start. And as far as us, I mean, for us West Coast kids and people, we get to watch all the games and be in bed by 10:30 if we want. So, yeah, it's just a real big plus right there. But, yeah, I'm really excited about that game. It's going to be Jimmy Butler and Andrew Wiggins and Towns versus Draymond, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. I think the Timberwolves have a good chance of pulling that one out. I think they're going to wake up for this game. But you know what? You got to play your best when you're playing against the Warriors. So we'll see how it all goes. But, yeah, those are the games I'm looking forward to Wednesday night. And other than that, that's pretty much going to be it for our show. It was a really fun show. I appreciate Jim Irsay getting me fired up. It really made this segment a lot more fun. And yeah, we'll watch out for Josh Gordon. Watch out for Teddy Bridgewater. Thunder right now, not a team I'm too high on. Celtics, are they the best team in the league? Probably not. But you know what? They're the second best team in the league. The Warriors are still number one. And today was a fun show. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Jesse Toppy, and we'll talk to you actually tomorrow. So stay tuned.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.